Yo, what's good? It's your man 100 Grand Ross for The Rock Never Stops. Tonight I wanted to do a video on the underdevelopment of NBA big men, especially defensive big men, in favor of catering to guard play. Um, this video is probably going to be more so for the NBA aficionados, the NBA fans who can't get enough of basketball, who really follow the sport. This ain't going to be for the casual fans because a lot of this is just going to miss you. Um, but let's just dive into it. If you like the video, smash the like button. You know the drill. The reality is, like, a lot of this, I could blame on, all the way from Michael Jordan to Kobe, Allen Iverson, um, even LeBron James too, like a little bit. And then definitely got to throw some blame on one Wardell Stephen Curry. And I blame them because they're amazing, absolutely amazing, stellar, fantastic, incredible, Hall of Fame, greatest of all time play uh, has done a number on a lot of these GMs. Um, it has messed up a lot of the NBA front offices because a lot of them are, ran by, let's just say, individuals who are of a culture of trying to replicate what somebody else has been able to do, right? They want to repeat what they've seen recently, that whole recency bias thing. And so when one great player comes about, they go, oh, let me try to make another one of him. Because if I can get another one, if I get one of him, then I can, have an opportunity to have just as much success as that guy. And what they don't understand is that there's only one of one, right? You can't repeat human beings. Even if you clone a human being, you can't repeat the same experiential circumstances and how somebody experienced their lives and what they went through, the relationships, all these different things, right? So you can't build the same person twice, right? And this is the foolishness oftentimes within NBA circles, is that they try to repeat what they just saw, right? You see James Harden leaves Houston and then they get Kevin Porter Jr. and then they're like, oh yeah, let's make another James Harden. No, dummy. You can't repeat James Harden. You have Kevin Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. grew up in Seattle, not LA, right? He didn't have the same experience, background. He didn't develop the same way. He doesn't have the same mindset. He's not the same player, right? You see Jordan leave, and all of a sudden you have these next up Michael Jordans, right? Kobe leaves, same thing, right? LeBron, everybody wants to get the next guy. And the reality is there is no next of that person. It's just them. Now, why do I bring this up? Because what this deters front offices and organizations from is really getting back to understanding the game of basketball. Understanding it, and you can always tell those individuals who don't understand it, like a Daryl Morey tries to like cheat the game by running with like data and statistics and like, oh, if we just cater to this, like some of his stuff is interesting and yeah, sure, a three at 33%, 34% is worth more than a two at 44%. All right, I get all that, right? But the name of the game is scoring and stopping the other team from scoring, right? And all the strategies and schemes that are involved with doing so. And for the longest, people in the NBA knew the best shot in the NBA is a dunk, is a dunk, is a layup. And after that, a free throw. Those are the best shots, the highest percentage yield shots. But somehow, especially in the wake of Stephen Curry, all of a sudden, guys don't care about free throws and dunks. They kind of do about free throws, but they don't care about layups. I'm sorry, they don't care about layups and dunks anymore, right? They just want to kick the ball out. And it's this thing that you're seeing over and over where you'll have a big man. He'll get an offensive rebound, right? And he'll get the ball. He'll be like 2 to 3 feet away from the rim. And he doesn't even look at the basket. He immediately looks to kick the ball out. as if he's passing to Stephen Curry or Klay Thompson. You're not passing to the greatest shooter of all time. Unless your name is Kayvon Looney or Draymond Green, you are not kicking the ball out to the greatest shooters of all time, right? Or those in the discussion. You're kicking out to the Duncan Robinsons, the Max Struces. You're kicking out to the Tyler Heroes. You're kicking out to guys who can shoot decently. But we all know in the playoffs, when it matters the most, shooting percentages go down. This is across the board for everybody, even the best. And so you have to get back to the game of basketball. Now, this brings me back to the point of this video. The failure to develop your big man, to be able to maximize his size, his skill, his ability to get the most efficient shot when it matters the most, is a failure on the organization and the culture of the NBA. Once again, I'll say that again. It is a failure on the culture of the NBA to fail to develop guys who can bring you the best quality shot when you'll need it the most. Now, I want y'all to really take a look at this. You see the Boston Celtics in this game against the Miami Heat, right? And we're coming off of the Miami Heat loss to the Boston Celtics tonight. You see Al Horford, every chance he gets. And how Al Horford is from the old school, right? Played at Florida, right? Played in Atlanta. Very cerebral, team first guy. But the coaching staff said, yo, we don't need you out here only shooting threes. We need you to punish every small guy who tries to guard you. I don't want you to post up 10 feet away. I want you to run under the rim and then turn and we will get you the ball. Now, this is two things. Two things needed to happen here. Actually, three things. One, the coach needs to recognize it. Two, they need to have players who are trained and able to make a great post-entry pass because you're in the playoffs. Both defenders are playing great defense, right? The guy who's on the ball, the guy who's guarding the post guy, Al Horford, right? So you need to make a great pass into the post. But lastly, you need a big man who knows what the freak he's doing to seal off a guard and be able to finish or get to the free throw line, right? Whether or not he even makes the free throws, you still put the other team in foul trouble. You still force the other team to have to reckon with, hey, this guy is a threat. Then that brings their attention away from the perimeter and allows the floor to open up. And then the offense can run smoother, right? It becomes a battle of attrition at this point. How much can you go in and out, in and out, in and out to guard the post, guard the perimeter, guard the post, guard the perimeter? It wears you out versus just focusing on the perimeter. Now, this is what we've seen over and over throughout these playoffs. We've seen Rudy Gobert. We've seen DeAndre Ayton. To a lesser extent, but still DeAndre Ayton. We've seen Bam Adebayo now. These big men. And even Brook Lopez, Milwaukee has gotten better at this, especially after last season. But they were a victim of it at times too, right? Where they just put 7'1" Brook Lopez, who's 260, 270 pounds, on the three-point line instead of posting him up against a 6'1", 6'2" guard, right? And then here's the sad part is that they go away from it so fast, right? Because it doesn't work once or twice, they go away from it. People forget Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls in both three-peats had a above average big man. Above average meaning all-star. Bill Cartwright, I believe he had been an all-star before Jordan got there, right? He had scored 20-some points a game. Luke Longley was a very proficient scorer in the post and mid-range jump shooter, right? Hit his free throws. But what they would do regularly is they would start games, start quarters, start halves by dumping the ball into the post. By dumping the ball into the post, getting their big man going every single time. This was commonplace. And like I said, this is a video for those of us who study the game, love the game, watch the game. They utilized their big man, even when he was matched up against another quality big man, because it demanded that they keep a big man in the game, right? You're not going small because you know our big man is going to get the ball 10, 11 times throughout this game at least, right? But here's where all the people who overthink this go to. Well, if I play the percentages, he only is going to make this amount, and then da, da, da. Okay, freak that. Freak that. You have a big man who is going to play major minutes for you because he is so dominant defensively and so integral to your team. He's going to be out there. You cannot have him out there and be a minus offensively. You cannot relegate him to a minimized role of rolling to the rim and offensive putbacks and dump-offs. You cannot do that, because if you do that, what you do is you make him a liability. Not only a liability, but you take his confidence away. You take his confidence away. You take away his aggressiveness. Have y'all seen Al Horford in these playoffs? How aggressive he's playing? You see, Kevin Love, this is what LeBron and his genius used to do when Kevin Love was playing with him on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He would intentionally get Kevin Love the ball in the post constantly, over and over, over and over, over and over. Because he knew, and he talked to Kevin Love, and he understood this, but if Kevin Love got some post touches, all of a sudden it opened up his three-point shot. All of a sudden he was in his rhythm, catch and shoot, especially if he got to the free throw line, got himself an and one. All of a sudden he's a beast on the offensive glass, defensive glass, throwing the outlets, facilitating at the top of the key. He's doing all this great stuff, right? But he needed to get himself going. He needed to get himself going. And this is the failure of organizations. If you know you have a big man that you're going to rely upon, that you're going to need to be a factor on both ends, why would you not spend time committed to developing them? You see, I've seen plenty of videos of Rudy Gobert showing every offensive move in the repertoire of what big men can do. I've even seen him shooting threes, right? I've seen him shooting threes. But here's the thing. They don't have him shoot threes in games. And I'm saying they don't have him. And this is where I want some, input from everybody else. Who do you believe the onus is on? The player, the organization, coaching staff, or somewhere in the mix of all three? Because in this culture, in this day and age, and this is the power of culture, is that the influence that it has around what is expected in this team dynamic is that you fall in line with what is normal, right? With what people think is best for their community, for their team, for their group, right? And unfortunately, during this whole Stephen Curry era, James Harden, right? Everybody's looking for these, what they call heliocentric players, these ball dominant, where the whole offense revolves around this one guy controlling every play at the top of the key, making every pass, shot, play make, free throws. It's all around him, right? Michael Jordan showed us that doesn't work, right? Even LeBron James, as much as he's probably the perfect player to do that with. He has the basketball brain, facilitating, playmaking ability, and desire. And he actually is more predisposed to getting guys involved than he is trying to just get his own. And he'll still get you 27 in his sleep, right? Even at his most perfect, right? He even fell victim consistently to great teams who had great continuity, who had great team chemistry, who worked together, right? And so this is the point that it brings me back to, is that the culture, the idea of evolving around one ball handler and removing the big man from being able to be dominant or at least be a significant force on both ends of the court has weakened most teams. Many teams who potentially could have been potential title contenders, or at least been far more than where they have been able to get to. Let's take them one at a time. Rudy Gobert. The regular season, why are you not posting him up at least 10 times a game? Like, let's just say, freak it. He's a dominant defensive player. We know we're going to win 50-plus games. We're going to be in the playoffs no matter what. You can't sacrifice 10 to 15 post touches and say, hey, we're going to give you the ball and we're going to let you mess up, just like they do with any big man or even guard who comes into the league. Look, you got guys like Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., You got these guards who come into the league and they just say, hey, look, we're going to let you mess up. I know you're a shooting guard. We're going to play you at point guard just so we can develop you, just so you can gain the playmaking skills, right? We know that we're going to play you a little bit out of position, but the point of it is so that you fully maximize your potential skill set, right? And so they let them mess up at running point. They let them turn the ball over at a high ratio, miss the open man, not make the extra pass, take bad shots early in the shot clock, not know how to manage the end of games, and they lose and they tank seasons around developing these guards. And yet, they don't spend a fraction of this energy and attention to developing their big men. Now, this leads me to my next guy, DeAndre Ayton, which is even more egregious because DeAndre Ayton came into the NBA as an offensive savant, an offensive beast of a player, an offensive literal freak of nature. He's 7 feet, 7'5", 7'6" wingspan, 30-something inch vertical, has one of some of the most smoothest athleticisms that we've ever seen from a big man. When he came in, the only guy I could compare him to was like David Robinson. How light he was on his feet, ability to run up and down the court like Kevin Willis was. But the difference is he has a great offensive skill set. He was shooting 18 to 20-foot jump shots in college at the University of Arizona. He was dominating on the interior, pick and roll, pick and pop, hook shots, jump hooks, up and under, drop steps, finishing with authority. He looked like a man amongst boys, right? At 7 feet, he was everything you could want. And all of a sudden he gets to the NBA and they say, you know what we want you to do? We want you to set screens. We want you to learn how to play good defense so you can be a role-playing big. What the hell is wrong with you? I get it. I commended DeAndre Ayton on being willing to commit himself to developing his defensive game. But the fact that the organization didn't say, I don't care how much you develop defensively, you still better be the DeAndre Ayton who we drafted, who could get 20 in his sleep. I'm tired of seeing games where DeAndre Ayton shoots 7 of 10 and only shot 10. I'm tired of shooting games, seeing games where he shoots 8 of 15. 8 of 15, and everyone else is shooting 30%, 20%. And I'm like, he only got 15 shots? If you got a guy who's shooting over 50%, you keep giving him the ball. Right? This whole, I don't know if Chris Paul doesn't like him or something like that. They didn't really trust him. I don't care. He's shooting 70% at the end of the game. What shot can't he make? You need to tell him, look him in the eye and say, we believe in you. Go out and get us 30 every game. We're going to give the ball to you nonstop. And this is when it comes back to bite them, when they're in a playoff series and they need him to produce. Well, you haven't asked him to produce at that level this entire time. All season long, he's getting 12 shots, 14 shots, 8 shots, 15 shots, when he should be getting 20 shots, 21 shots, 25 shots, 28 shots. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Now, Bam Adebayo, he's somebody else that I'm definitely frustrated with because when he came in the NBA, if you listen to him, and I follow the draft, I follow all this junk, I need to do some other things in my life. But at this time, I followed it to the T, all the way through, all the interviews that he went through. And he said this, and I quote him on this. He said, "Don't compare me to Dwight Howard." He said, "I am far more than a defensive big man. Do not compare me to Dwight Howard." This is now at this time, Dwight Howard, yeah, he was getting a lot of flack in the media because of his personality and his awkwardness, but he was still coming off of Defensive Player of the Years, still coming off of the trip to the finals with the Orlando Magic, even though now he had left, I believe, the Lakers and the Rockets by this time, right? He's on the downside of his career, but he's still Hall of Fame big man. And the whole leaving him out of the top 75 was just egregious. He's a Hall of Famer. Put some respect on his name. And yet Bam Adebayo was talking about, oh, you know what? I'm more than just that. Da 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 da. Okay, I was like, bet. Let's see it. Go for it. I like a man who claims who he is and what he's about. Like, go ahead, bruh. Stand on your square, bruh. And then I see him develop his game, and he shows these flashes, but it ain't consistent. And when you need it the most, oftentimes it's absent. It's gone. It's nowhere to be found. And I'm looking in this game and I'm saying, now look, Miami, one, you keep saying he's a center. He's not a center. He's a power forward playing the center position, and you guys have been able to make it work. I get it. I'm not going to fault you like it hasn't worked. You're the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. All right? It has worked. And yet, you get exposed at the same point every time when you run into a top-notch defense, especially a team that's a lot bigger than him. He looks like a forward. And you realize he's only 6'9" and change, 6'10" on a good day with the right shoes, with only a 7'7" wingspan, not a 7'5" wingspan like a Wendell Carter Jr., right? 7'1" wingspan. This is the same wingspan that Al Horford had. But the difference is Al Horford can shoot threes. He can spread out the offense, right? And as a result, spread out the defense and make things easier for his team. And all of a sudden, Bam Adebayo, who did not want to be compared to Dwight Howard, relegates himself into being a defensive big. Now I want to contrast this because I definitely want to point out that the Miami Heat organization has to take some blame for this. The Miami Heat organization has failed to develop many of its guys, unless they're guards, right? Tyler Hero, give him all the leeway in the world to develop, right? Gabe Vincent shooting a bunch of threes, right? Jimmy Butler, they have him doing all right, but they haven't demanded that he start shooting threes, right? Saying like, hey, we need you to get your three-point shooting up. And then when it came to Bam Adebayo, and they faced the Lakers in the NBA Finals in the bubble, and I said, wow, he looks really small. He's smaller than LeBron. He's smaller than Anthony Davis. He's smaller than Dwight Howard. He's getting worn down. He can't keep this up. He's too small. And they lose that NBA Finals, and it was obvious. And so I said, okay, he's going to come back better. He's going to have his jump shot, because I already knew he had the 16, 18-footer down pat. So I knew he only had to stretch it out a few more feet. At least show me you're going to take 2 to 3 threes a game next season. No, he didn't. The year after that, he doesn't. And now in the playoffs, when they need him the most, he's nowhere to be found. Because he's too small to go up against the Robert Williams and the Al Horfords, who are only 6'10", only an inch or so taller than him. But he's getting exposed because he hasn't developed. They haven't given him the ball, force-fed him the ball and said, yo, we want you to hit these corner threes. We want you to hit this top of the key trail three, this pick and pop three. We need you to expand your game, because at your size, when you go up against a great defensive team, like if they had to face the Milwaukee Bucks, if they had to face a healthy Milwaukee Bucks with 6'8" Chris Middleton, 6'11" Giannis Antetokounmpo, 7'1" Brook Lopez, they would have had him in weight and in height and in length. What was he going to do offensively against them? Tell me that. He would have been dwarfed again. And now we're seeing it come back to bite them in the behind. So I want to know what you guys think. Who's responsible? Is it the organization? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the player for not just demanding and saying, hey, you know what? Yo, I need my touches. And I almost forgot to mention, I'll make this real quick. The Miami Heat tried to do the same thing with Precious Achiuwa, who came in out of the University of Memphis. They tried to make him to another Bam Adebayo. He came in the NBA saying straight up, he said, and I quote, he said, I am a forward. That's how I see myself, as a small forward. That's the position I play, not center. What did Miami try to do? Make him to a center. They ended up trading him to the Toronto Raptors. He was underperforming in Miami. Next year, he goes to the Toronto Raptors this season. Starts off slow, getting his legs on him, and he was like, whoa, you guys really want me to be this dynamic on offense? Masai Ujiri was like, hell yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. We expect everybody to be able to put the ball on the floor. We expect everybody to be able to make a play. We expect everybody to shoot the three when they're open. And all of a sudden, he begins to blossom. He becomes a playoff contributor. He begins to have consistent big games. And you begin to see, his potential is big time. Slide down to the Orlando Magic, who got Wendell Carter Jr. from the Chicago Bulls. Wendell Carter Jr. came into the NBA being able to shoot that three. And then they had head coach Doyle, whatever the hell his name was. He was a horrible coach. Didn't allow Wendell Carter to shoot threes. Doesn't shoot threes. Stymies his offensive development. As soon as Orlando gets him, what do? It's the first thing they do. They unleash him. Say, we want you to start shooting threes. We want you to start working on the full repertoire of your potential as an offensive threat while being great defensively. And all of a sudden now you see Wendell Carter Jr. hitting threes at a solid clip. Imagine what he's going to come in doing next year. This is the failure of some organizations to develop their big. I want you to leave the comments. Let me know what you think. But this is something I'm just tired of seeing. I'm tired of seeing guys underdeveloped who have a minimized impact, not because of the limits of their skill set or what they could potentially do, but just a lack of development and cultivation by the organization and the offensive schemes put together by the coaching staff. But I want to know what you guys think. Smash the like button if you like this video. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And I'm going to holler at y'all next time. Peace.